Okay, so I'm gonna just have to put the part 2 of that part 2. It just ended. I'm not gonna restart it. I accidentally hit the like thumb to the thing. That's okay. But my dad used to literally make us do this thing called knees, where we would like stand and we would bend our knees as if we were like sitting like in a chair. So we would bend our knees and make sure our backs were straight, and then we would have to have our hands behind our head, like our neck, like this, and stand in the corner. Like, what the fuck? No. That is ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Like, it just really actually is ridiculous. So, no, that shit is ridiculous. What is wrong what is wrong with people? What is wrong with you? Honestly, you can't blame anybody because people are all mentally ill somehow. And that is just what he did, man. He did other things, but that's just one of the things he did that was just honestly really unacceptable and inappropriate. And having us stand in that position like that in the corner for a long time a long time to teach us a lesson where you actually did not actually teach us a lesson or actually tell us actually what we were doing. Most of the time you were yelling about something. So a lot of parents have a lot of control over things, right? So honestly, that was just not appropriate. That was not appropriate. Make sure you watch the first part of this little 4-minute thing because I accidentally hit that button. But that's okay, right? So we're just gonna keep on going in, right? So then the abuser, right? Go ahead, bring me back in. Here's up. Oh. So the abuser, right, uses the child as part of the act, right? Is this good or bad behavior? What if you told your parents, no, I'm not going to go get that? Did you get your ass beat more or less? I can tell you right now, if my dad or your parent or whomever, right, they were like, go get my belt, and you told them no, they would fucking beat your ass twice. They would probably beat you, fucking slap you, hit you or something. Then they would go get the fucking thing, and then they hit you more. Yeah. Yeah, that shit motherfucking hurt. Hell yeah, that shit hurt. That's some real shit right there. But everyone in the house as well. Oh, no. Not just the child that gets abused gets affected by this. Everyone in the house does as well. And everyone is afraid to say anything on the risk of one, either being hit themselves, or two, being separated with CPS called, right? Siblings are different. Some of them stick together and some of them don't know how to. We're not supposed to be fighting our parents. We shouldn't actually have to stick up to our parents to protect our siblings from abuse. Putting us in a position where we have to do something like that really actually takes a lot of mental toll onto us. Like, that's not something that's real. Like, that's like some real Stone Age type shit that I don't understand why that happens, but that does happen. It just has happened, and I just don't think it's appropriate that we keep continuing to do this anymore. How many times can this go on for? How many instances where the child says one thing and the parent says another, and the child is either dismissed and or shows no evidence visually of harm? How do you measure the limit of emotional and verbal abuse? Are we only looking for physical abuse? Asking for everyone on the planet, because actually I have no idea what they actually look for when they call those people. Like, I actually just don't know. How many of you remember being humiliated as a kid? You're fat, or you're stupid, or just simply controlling who you see or spend time with, isolating you from others. That was something else too. I never really built a bond with a lot of my family members. I did with some, right? But I never really had that good connection because I wasn't really allowed to spend time with them, right? It seems like for some reason in my mind, without being like a jerk or anything, when someone learns like something, like when they're like, oh, you can tell me anything, and then a child feels like they can express that to somebody and the situation gets brought up, right? Then it's like the parent itself, they like start attacking the child of like, how could you tell somebody? Well, they're supposed to be family. And if I don't want you to hit me anymore and they're supposed to be family, in my mind, I'm thinking that they will help. And in your mind, I'm backstabbing you. You see how wild that sounds, first of all? Even saying it out loud, that is wild. That is someone clearly not in their right mind. And if you are a child and you are dealing with a parent who are just not in your right mind, their right mind, you always think it's your fault and your problem. And you're the issue. And how dare you say something? And how dare you be like this? You're going to respect me because I'm your parent. You're going to honor me, just like they say that in the Bible, right? Honor thy mother and thy father, right? Well, you're supposed to honor Jesus first. And when they aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing, Jesus said, I'll be your dad. God said, I'll be your parent. That's right. God doesn't hit me. Amen. God does not hit me. God teaches me. This broke my trust with a lot of people. Yeah, just did. They will say, oh, well, it's better for you to stay in the home than to be in the system. Child abuse is very interesting because the trauma is more than surface level, and this trauma can lead well off into adulthood. And when you turn 18, it's actually no one's problem except for yours because you're just not a kid anymore. So it doesn't matter that someone hit you or hurt you or yelled at you or did anything to you. You are now 18. Who cares? And then that child that's still an adult but is still a child on the inside has really bad thoughts about the world. Nobody cares. And so if you're like, okay, well, all of this stuff happened and now I don't like myself, what's the result of all of this? One moment. Hey y'all, I might have to pause it one more time because my uncle needed something, so I just needed to help him for a minute. But how many of you actually suffer from PTSD as an adult? From those things that happened to you as a kid. And they will say, well, trauma doesn't give you the excuse to act a certain way. Let that one rattle in your brain of frustration. Yeah. But how can you receive help if you lack the ability to ask for it properly? This is where our negative mindset is enabled. This shit sucks because in my mind, it doesn't matter what someone does to you. As long as you don't talk about it or act out or hurt other people, then you're fine. I hate that. How are you? I'm fine. That's the biggest lie that we tell ourselves. You are not fine. What in the world? Lamp. You are not fine. You hear people say, why do you got to be so difficult? What about those people or those kids that do cause harm to others? Who is at fault here? How many family members can cover up a mess of another? Families know how to work together when it comes to covering up something, but it's so hard to work together when something needs to change for the good. And that actually makes no sense. Instead of like us being able to just cover stuff up, like we should be able to fix the problem. Usually I forgave my family, okay? I forgave my family and my parents and everything like that. That was me. So anybody causing harm to them, on like sending negative energy on them, I will send it back to you, because I already sent good energy and healing on that. I felt all the energy, so it doesn't have to happen anymore on my bloodline. I don't want that. No, absolutely not. But it literally just makes no sense. Like, it usually comes from a line before. Like, my family, my dad didn't just wake up one day and was just like, I just hate my kid and I just want to beat the shit out of them and all. No, he really did try his best, but he had a lot going on up here. And then on top of that, he was traumatized from his childhood, right? So it's just a long line of trauma. So when you and your family, right, with your mom or your dad or your person who's taking care of you and or whatnot, who did something to them? Now, I am not saying that you are not important and your feelings are not valid and everything like that, but it is not your fault that something bad happened to you, but it is your responsibility to fix said whatever did happen to you. You cannot wait around for someone else to fix that problem, even though you were not the person who created it, because you are the only person at the end of the day that's going to be living with you for the rest of your life. One second. Hey, y'all. Just keep on keeping on. My uncle's doing a few things, so he's gonna be leaving the house. So he's asking for some stuff, but we keep on going. At any age, have you ever gone to work or to school? I know that there has to be something in here. I feel like there's a cricket in here or something. Have you ever gone to work or school and needed to put on makeup and maybe wear some glasses? I know that has to have happened to multiple people in the world. This is not uncommon. Earlier when I was trying to make this video, like I didn't really want to make the video because something kept making me feel like, shut up, Elise, don't say anything. This has never happened to anybody else. Like something kept making me feel like I am the only person in the entire world that this has happened to. With all of my slides and all of my presentation and all of these things. And I was like, there's just no way. I would be so blessed, actually. I would be so blessed if all of this stuff only happened to me, only specifically in this world. But I just feel like that's just not true. Others have had this stuff happen to them. So if you resonate with any of these words that I say, well, then you are one of those people. I connect to you. I'll connect with you. Why? Because we are the same. We're not the same person, but our souls feel a similar like pain. And you can actually get help from those things. You can actually feel better. Yeah. I feel better. Yeah, I had to go through a lot of stuff. But yeah. Because we don't know how to deal with the trauma at a young age, we become older and we find partners. They usually become the next abuser, or it could take a turn and then now we become the abuser. We need to stop this chain because I'm afraid that it is so common that it will continue to be passed down through the gene pool. If you don't come from a strong family of great communicators, then you won't be a good communicator if you don't learn. If we don't teach our children their rights and we just do whatever we want with them, this just isn't good. And sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't our fault that this stuff happens to us. But not all people are actually good people. They literally on purpose look for people who are hurt or insecure or have unresolved issues to gain control over them. Just period. There are bad people in the world that don't wish you any well, and they will give you a sob story, but they won't bring you any goodness. No, they'll just control you and they make you feel bad all the time. No. That is not your fault that you were hurt. Then you became an adult, and before you had the chance to heal, you got looped into another toxic scenario. I am here to evaluate the situation. People can't help what they do not know. That is part of why I'm doing this series, to shine a light in a situation so you can gain clarity, so that way you can heal and change your life. Because even if you leave said abuser, if you do not heal it, it will lead to a new person with the same traits. You guys hear that? Effects of child abuse. Greater risk for domestic violence, alcoholism, and substance abuse. Some people just drink and smoke and do other things just to mask the pain. Depression, suicidal thoughts and or attempts. Because they're like, well, nobody else cared for me, no one else loved me, nobody else. This happens all the time. What happened to you to trigger these habits? Right? You need to release this in order to succeed moving forward. Sometimes, no matter how much you want to reach your goals, your body literally will not let you. 100%. That's why it's important for you to listen to it. You have so much guilt that you have no room for joy, and you have so much fear that you literally have no room for confidence. These are all chemical reactions that happen within your brain. Noggin. You can heal some of these with science. Some of the healing doesn't actually have to be so hard that you need to think too much about it. You just might need some nutrients. Pain depletes nutrients from the body, and it actually can keep you from absorbing nutrients as well. Literally telling your story heals the body. This tells you with your ears, right? Because all of our ears, the only job that it's supposed to do is to hear and receive information. Like you're just supposed to get, that's its only job. Receive information, and it just sends it right into your head, right? This is you telling you, I hear you. I hear me. I hear us. You are now starting to create a safe space for you, for your body. If you don't have a safe space anywhere, you need to have a safe space with you. Sometimes we don't have even a good connection with ourselves where we can look at ourselves and literally look at ourselves and be like, oh my God, like there's just something really ugly inside of me that I haven't showed anybody, but I'm even too scared to look at it myself because it's so painful. That's why God isn't so important. When I was going through my journey, I couldn't do it by myself because you're not supposed to do it by yourself. Yes, technically you're supposed to be doing it by yourself because it's you, you know. But that's where God comes in. I had a lot of help from God. A lot. You need to hear yourself. You need to hear your pain. Like, what was I saying? Like, sometimes, because I was channeling in my book, sometimes we don't actually need motivation, right? We need validation. Yes, this happened. Yes, I hear you. Yes, oh my God. When we hear somebody else talk about something really bad and awful that happened, we're like, oh my God, what the fuck? Like, what happened? How did that happen? I can't believe that happened to you. We need to figure out something to help you out. But when it happens to us, it's like we have no idea. You're supposed to matter to you too. We have these things called mirror neurons, right? When we see something, right? But we need to do that for ourselves. I hear you. I see you. I've experienced you. I feel you. Creating that intimacy for oneself. Into me, I see the pain that I have received. Can you help? Well, I went and got some. I went and found some. Well, how would you handle that? How would you figure that out? I have no idea. I'm going to need to go figure out some information. And I'm going to get back to you. But not in 20, 35, 40 years. I'm going to get back to you as soon as I find out. Give me like a couple days. Give me today. Give me a couple hours. When the inside you speaks, you need to actually listen. Don't just say it out in your head, right? Oh, well, I know. You need to say it from your mouth so your ears can hear it. Your ears need to hear it so that way it can be processed inside your head. Otherwise, it's just a bunch of jumbled thoughts. We mean well for ourselves and we talk all the time inside of our head, but you need to hear it. Your ears need to hear it. Elise, I love you. I'm proud of you. It's okay. Keep going. Do this. Do that. Take time for yourself. All of those things. You need to say that to yourself, like really with your actual mouth, so your ears can hear it. Not just say it in your head. You're doing half the work. You actually manually have to do it. So let's continue. This one's going to be really rough, okay? I know you guys can hear that. There has to be a bug in here because I'm hearing something. Hey, get out of here. But let's get into it, right? Let's talk about the stuff we never want to talk about, right? Unwanted sexual touch. It does happen. Out of all of the people in my life, I've literally only come across like a couple handfuls of people that haven't been sexually assaulted. I'm not even kidding. I thought it was actually normal because I heard so many stories from both men, women, boys, and girls. And some will say, it's okay, you can talk to me. When did this happen? Right? And what happens when you tell them this happened yesterday? Or at that party we went to the other night? Or when I was 5? Do we really forget? How do I mentally prepare for that conversation? And I know parents say they are always there for you. But believe it or not, they are not always the best ones to listen. Some parents hold no space for the simple things in the child's life. So what happens when one of the people who assaulted your child was actually a family member? This is pretty common. A stepdad, an uncle, a cousin, right? How many parents protect their partners over their children, right? And they got like some weird thing like with like the parents, especially like with women for some reason. I find it happens with women where like they say they have a daughter and like the stepdad or the boyfriend or whatever sexually assaults the daughter, right? And then the mom gets very jealous and angry and starts attacking the daughter. Like it's some very weird dynamic. It's very strange, okay? How many parents protect their partners over their children? I met a few. What about the children whose parents were sexually assaulted and never dealt with their pain, so they can't help you? Maybe this is why things keep happening. Sometimes you do get sexually assaulted, but your mom and dad, or one of them or both of them, they've actually been previously sexually assaulted and they actually never healed from that stuff. So they actually can't help you with yours. What about the children that were assaulted and never said anything for years? How do I sit down an old woman and talk to her inner child? How do you explain to a child what happened? How do you comfort them? We healed the memory, but all this time has passed, and when the child looks at the current self, a shock happens. Who did you become because of this pain? Now, there are things called time travel and multiple timelines, right? Which I actually believe are true. This person that I know, we actually did heal that memory. We did. And now there are multiple memories. She remembers what happened, right? And she also remembered the memory that we literally went back and fixed and healed, right? So now she has two memories of that same timeline because we had to go back in the past to fix it. But when your inner child, right, looks at yourself at its state now, it does come into a shock because you come back into your body of your own reality right here, right now. And sometimes when a child, the inner child in you, looks at you, it can be quite shocking because when we're children, we literally think we're going to be astronauts or doctors or scientists or superstars or all of these great and wonderful things. And sometimes we actually don't become anything even close to that. Sometimes people look really rough. Sometimes I have met actually not met, but, I have met, but I've seen some kids that I've gone to school with in like elementary, junior high, high school, right? And then you see them like 10, 20 years later, right? And they look way different. And not way different in a good way, rough different, like real bad. And I'm like, where is all your love at? How do we get our family members to get so rough? Is there no one telling you around you good things, helping you? Are they just aiding you? Like I'm actually thinking of a specific person. They looked rough. Smoke it up, drink it up, vape it up. Rough. I'm going to pray for you. And you might think, oh, why didn't you help? You cannot be, you sometimes you cannot just take on anybody's burdens and problems because you didn't create them. And they need a lot more help than honestly that you can give. You can be kind and nice, but sometimes that's all. Who did you become because of this pain? And what didn't you experience because of the pain? How long can you continue in this way? And no matter who you are, listen to this one. When you are fucked up, we can sense someone who is fucked up. We actually connect better. And it sounds bad, but we pick friends and partners who are fucked up. Because honestly, we are too afraid to fuck up anybody who isn't fucked up. And that's fucked up. And I was like, why you gotta use the word fucked up? It's an appropriate word, especially for this little paragraph. There is no other word I could possibly think of except for that word. Because when you're there and you know what I'm talking about, tell me if there's a different word. You could say messed up. That's not real. Because we don't just say we're messed up, we think we're fucked up. Sometimes our language matches how an emotion is. That is why when receiving actual love and affection, we actually don't know how to deal with it. So we self-sabotage. I want to say to all the inner children who never felt seen or heard, who felt unloved, who felt like they weren't important enough to protect, the days that they cried or screamed into a pillow so no one could hear them, the ones that kept it in, I want to shine the light. I want to shine some light in that hole that you are in and remove any curse and or entity that embedded itself into you. Bye. That voice that made you feel dirty or unlovable or unworthy, the feeling of being a burden. You were never a burden. You just needed help and lacked the vocabulary to know how to ask for it. What happens when God uses you to connect with someone that never said anything until one day you have a dream? That's actually, when we meet people, it's not it's not an accident or coincidental or whatever. I think God makes us meet people for a reason. I met someone that I experienced that with. This happened to them when they were 14. And in my dream, it was happening to me. But something in the dream linked me to her. So I called her and asked. I literally remember waking up because I was like in a hot sweat. I was like sweating and I was like, dang. So I called her up and I said, hey, I got a weird question. I just had a weird dream. I said, did this happen to you? And she literally was just like, yes, it did. She said, I've actually never told anybody. And this happened to her. This is her eternal age, is 14. And that is why. And she is now into her 60s. So she held on to this secret for how many years? For a very long time. Being stuck in a hole for over that many years, you definitely turn into a different person. And now for me, right, this is actually difficult for me because I know that I do not have just normal, regular, schmegular relationships with people, right? It's hard for me because when I talk to her, I actually talk to both of them. I saw the place, the whole layout of the place. And I actually saw her alone. kid. And when our inner child and ourselves, like our vessel, right? Sometimes they're just not the same. They're two different people. This is where you develop something called like multiple personality disorder or imposter syndrome. That is why no matter how loud you talk to someone, they cannot hear a word you are saying. That shit breaks my fucking heart, bro. They are literally, they are at a state where they are literally paralyzed. That person with the glossiness to their eyes. And some people put up their walls so high that they can't even get in or out. What about the children or young adults that obtain HPV? Sometimes when sexual assault happens, it's more than that. And it wasn't even your fault. But it leads to mental problems, feeling ashamed or gross or even undeserving of sex in the future. I'm sure you remember the vaccine that was geared for young adults. This was actually called Gardasil. You would get a series of 3 of them. This actually affects the immune system, and in certain strains, it actually can cause cancer. If you get this at an early age, you have a good chance of clearing it up on its own, as long as you take care of your immune system. But this is the time where we usually indulge in a lot of sugar. And as soon as the sugar hits the system, which usually takes about 30 minutes, and it takes several hours for it to leave the body and reduce inflammation. Now, this isn't a big deal if you stopped eating sugar, but try telling a teenager not to consume any sugar when every single month of the year there's some type of sugar-related holiday. That's for another day. If you need some vitamins, let me know, such as vitamin A, B, C, or D, and E. We can set up a time to talk about your experiences and some nutrition. I sell the world's best nutraceuticals. That is a vitamin in isotonic form. Now, these are not intended to diagnose, treat, or cure, or prevent any disease, but I can say from my own personal experience, it has helped me significantly in multiple categories of my life and health. I am only here to help, not to cast judgment. And I am not ashamed of me or you or anyone. This shit just happens, and I don't know why the fuck it's happening, but that's why I'm trying to say something. I am not ashamed of any of us. So please do not feel ashamed to express yourself. Please don't. That's stupid. Don't be upset. It's literally stupid. Don't be upset. You can open up and talk about it freely without feeling guilty. Might take you a little bit to do it, but you should, because that's the only way you're going to be able to heal. And that's what I actually want. I'd rather just have you look stupid for 2 or 3 seconds and then tell you you aren't stupid. And then help heal you. You feel me? I just want to help and let you know help is available. I love all of us, and I am sending you a hug. And not just no 3-second hug either. I actually hugged myself. I even feel it now. I even hugged myself when I was doing this. And it was literally like a whole minute long. And that's what I did. I want you to, I said a hug at least a minute long. Because that's about a long time. That's a good hug. I want you to feel held and seen and heard. And then I want you to take my hand and walk out of this hole with me. Because you don't have to stay here. But you can if you want to. As crazy as it sounds, people have been in the dark so long that they actually just found it to be more comfortable to stay there. Sometimes, no matter how much you want to shine the light in somebody's hole and lead them out, they simply don't want to. And you know that that person is hurting, but you're going to have to, it's okay. It's something that I learned. You're going to have to be okay with allowing people to sit in their own pain and misery if they don't want to get the help. They want it, but they are literally just too afraid. They're going to stay in that comfort zone as long as they can, forever if they can. That's their choice. But if you see my video, you can get out of that if you want to. I want you to. And there's a bunch of people that want you to. But if you don't want to, you won't. But I can't stay here with you. And a lot of people feel very lonely. No. I want us to get out of here. We got a different life to live. Some people are afraid to leave the hole. You don't have to be afraid to live a life worth living without pain. Even if you choose to stay here, I still love you. Some of the symptoms of rape trauma or sexual assault: anxiety, confusion, disorientation, depression, difficulty concentrating, flashbacks, mood swings, nightmares, and difficulty sleeping. And I do not have to tell you everything about every single thing that's happened to my life. We can definitely talk about it more over a conversation's tea. But for one, 5 no's and a yes is not a yes. That's not appropriate. That's happened more than once in my scenario. Things happen to everybody. Nobody ever expects anything. And children that touch children, had to be touched by an adult first. Have you ever heard, "Do you love me now?" after or during the act of something like that? Somebody had to tell somebody that. And if they touch you as a child and they are a child, an adult had to touch them and say that, or done something and the child said that. This world is very fucked up. I pray that this helps somebody. Yeah, because I don't need to keep none of this. I didn't need any of this garbage. No, I don't want none of this shit. I told Jesus, I need you to help. I needed some real help. So I went to God. When you are dealing with something and you need a boss, you go straight to the boss, straight to the manager. I need to talk to the bigwig. I need to talk to the man. I need to talk who is in charge here. That's exactly what I did. So let's continue. This is for broken homes. Moms or dads yelling. This usually comes from a toxic background. Did you come from a house with a single mother and or father? That isn't normal. It is something that we are used to dealing with, but it's not normal. It takes two to tango, and it takes two to raise a child. How many of us experience a broken home? We need both a mom and a dad in the home. Mothers are not supposed to scream and threaten to gain control of the child. They need a partner to back them up and help support the home. How many of you experienced a full breakup in the home and was put in foster care and or lived with a relative? And sometimes you experienced a good home and sometimes a good environment. But this just isn't always the case. Good for all those people that do experience good lives and everything. I am not blaming you. I'm glad. That's good. That's what we all strive for, right? That is where we go. That isn't always the case. Sometimes that is where we go to be safe from the situation we came from, but can experience other abuse here. Now, they may not hit you here, but this is where you can receive other abuse, such as emotional abuse, sexual abuse, financial abuse. Sometimes you will hear, if you don't act right, I'll send you back. Or if you get into a disagreement with one of your caregivers and they isolate you to your room and they tell you, stay away from my family and stay away from my kids. I've actually heard that. That's some fuck shit. What if they ask you to do something and you refuse? Have you ever heard, if you don't do what I'm, excuse me. Have you ever heard, if you don't do it, do what I say, I'm going to, why did I write that word? I'm going to have the previous abuser whoop your ass. This is actually more common when the child goes with a family member. Last time I checked, that is actually a manipulated threat. So a family member who says, oh, I'm going to tell your dad to whoop your ass, knowing that you came from an abusive household, and they're supposed to be there to protect you, why would you even say something like that? That's actually highly inappropriate. So if you don't do what I say, I'm going to have someone beat you. To scare you to do what I say, that's manipulation. I'm not overreacting. I was a child, and you didn't even educate me on you manipulating me. Sometimes the child goes with the family member and they don't receive any funds, so they take it out on that child. And when any money comes in, you actually don't get any of it. Sometimes you felt like just a fucking paycheck. This is usually when you are loaded with unnecessary chores. You think to yourself, I can help, but why, when the other kids don't help, they don't get punished? And why don't they have to earn their place? This is where you learn really quickly. I don't think we're all equal here. What about when you get separated from your siblings? Right? This is actually something that my brother told me when I was separated from him. Yeah. You let them take me away. I held on to that guilt for a very long time. He was sent to other family members, and they meant good for him, but he had a really hard time. I had to heal from that. This wasn't my fault, the situation we were put in, and it wasn't my fault that we were separated. And it wasn't my fault for anything that happened to him, and it wasn't his fault for anything that happened to me. However, time changes everything. People change. We think that things will go back to the way it was, but that bond will never be the same. Sometimes we lose a best friend, and unless we both heal, you can never come together because the process of a back and forth blaming game. It's sometimes hard to talk to the inner child when you know the person talking back at you is not your brother. It's actually something a lot darker. You can feel the difference. We all have the inner light within us, but sometimes it can be controlled by the dark. This is where we create the ego. And in simple words, it's literally edging God out. Do I think there is hope for him? 100% yes, of course I do. But only with the help of God. Period. I want my siblings to heal and everything like that. But that's not my job. Got other kids in the house? Believe me, they will say something else. But you are never the first one on the list when getting something, and and getting listened to. And you will hear the excuse, well, we don't have money like that. But you're actually thinking, no, I just don't think that's the full truth. You try and feel like you belong, but you just don't. I later found out that what I was missing was unconditional love and understanding. I wanted to feel like I belonged, not a burden or a worker. You never have to prove yourself with tasks to receive love. I think we all strive for unconditional love, but sometimes ending up into conditional love. This can lead to emotional manipulation, isolation, intimidation, and gaslighting. I actually believe that we should have a balance between the two. I will love you freely for who you are, but I also expect for us to be open, honest, and create healthy boundaries that are not crossed over on. This is a healthy way for a relationship to work. But kids don't know stuff like this. And if you are not telling your children this, or telling them their rights as a child of what they should expect, then honestly, one, you're trying to control way more than what you should, and two, you're doing them a disservice. Just because you are unwilling to do the work yourself doesn't mean your child shouldn't be educated. We learn to talk to others from the ones around us. Sometimes this is where sexual abuse can happen in many different forms. Have you ever experienced sexual jokes, but it only seems to happen to you? It seems funny, but it's not. I literally heard this. Well, it's a good thing they aren't really your uncle. Wink, right? I'm literally going to throw the fuck up, right? That shit's so fucking gross. We all laugh, right? But it's said more than one time. This is a form of grooming. It is never funny to say anything sexual about a child and an adult doing anything at any age, ever. 100%. 100% unacceptable and inappropriate. That's nasty. Adult, period. Or someone talking about how one of their friends always liked you since you were a child. Don't be sitting on motherfucking your friend. No, I'm not sitting on your lap. Just sit on the lap. You're creepy. Oh, well, she's just overreacting. She's too sensitive. No, you literally are doing like real pedophilia type stuff, and you're just expecting me to just be okay with it. And you're like, well, why didn't you say something? Well, why would you even allow anything like this to happen? What scenario would you even think to yourself, allowing yourself to say anything like that or do anything, even if it's jokingly, to a child is actually okay? What in the world? Y'all is